As part of their investigation into the Pagans motorcycle club, law enforcement in Pennsylvania obtained a warrant to search a home in Highland Circle, Bethel Park. In the spring of 2022, the police raided the residence on April the 12th and arrested 3 individuals with connections to the Pagans, a motorcycle club categorized as outlaw by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. The trio who was taken into custody consisted of Joseph Roberts, his girlfriend, Christine Niedermeyer, and Stephen Albertson. A search of the home produced drugs, firearms, and explosives. Roberts was identified as a sergeant-at-arms within a chapter of the motorcycle club. From his and Niedermeyer's master bedroom, the police recovered drugs, firearms, axe handles, and notebooks with notes from Pagans meetings that allegedly detailed criminal activities. Drugs were also found in 38-year-old Albertson's bedroom and from a laundry room next door. Law enforcement recovered explosive devices and various weapons. An Allegheny County bomb technician was called after a device possessing a possible powder charge as well as fragmentation objects was located in the basement. It was determined to be a pipe bomb. The discovery of further bomb-making material exceeded the scope of the initial warrant, but after a federal warrant was obtained, 10 more explosive components were found in the basement. An Allegheny County forensics lab determined that if any of the devices had detonated, the results would have been catastrophic. As of the latest updates on the matter, Roberts, Niedermeyer, and Albertson were each charged with 11 counts of weapons of mass destruction, causing or risking a catastrophe, criminal conspiracy, and drug possession. Number 10. Cody Heron. On October the 1st of 2023, Nikki Bullock was in traffic near City Hall, Philadelphia, when her vehicle was surrounded by a group of bikers. An argument erupted between Bullock and 26-year-old biker Cody Heron after the latter had reportedly collided with her car door. As tensions escalated, Heron got off his dirt bike, climbed onto the back of Bullock's sedan, and stomped on her rear windshield. He then jumped on the windshield with both legs and smashed through it. Heron ended up partly inside the car and fell onto the trunk, dropping his handgun in the process. Glass shards were sent flying onto Bullock's 2 children who were in the vehicle's back seat, but they weren't reported to have been seriously injured. The incident was captured on cell phone video by a tourist on a double-decker sightseeing bus, and the footage went viral. After smashing the rear windshield, Heron dismounted and picked up his handgun. As Bullock got out of her vehicle to confront him, the woman started screaming at the biker, who reacted by briefly aiming the pistol at her. The threatening gesture did nothing to deter the enraged mother from marching towards him. Heron was then captured head-butting Bullock while still wearing his motorcycle helmet and shoving her. He got back on his bike, at which point Bullock pushed him, causing him and the bike to topple. Heron readjusted and several of his motorcycle riding companions closed in, but no further violence occurred. Heron was tracked down to a Philadelphia home a few days later, where the police recovered the motorcycle, helmet, and 9mm handgun, which had been involved in the road rage attack. The biker was arrested for possession of an instrument of crime, recklessly endangering another person, and multiple counts of aggravated assault. Updates from February of 2024 indicated that he'd pleaded guilty to 2 counts of aggravated assault and 1 count of possession of an instrument of crime. His sentencing was scheduled for June. Number 9. 2017 Vagos Arrest. Over a single weekend in June of 2017, a number of high-ranking members of the Vagos Motorcycle Club were arrested in a series of police raids in California, Nevada, and Hawaii. The members were reported to have caused drug addiction, death, and mayhem across 5 states. 23 bikers were arrested, some for drug trafficking, others for selling stolen goods or instructing underlings to carry out attacks. The bosses had allegedly green-lit assaults on rival Hell's Angels members and issued SOS orders, which stood for Smash on Sight. One biker was accused of beating a female bartender unconscious. Among the individuals taken into custody was Ernesto Romeo Gonzalez, whose case represented a fulcrum for the operation. He shot and killed Jeffrey Jethro Pettigrew, a president of the rival Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, inside a casino in Sparks, Nevada, during the annual Street Vibrations Motorcycle Festival in September of 2011. Gonzalez was, however, acquitted in 2020 after CCTV footage and witness reports indicated Pettigrew had drawn his weapon first. A melee had broken out at the casino and Pettigrew, who was the president of the San Jose Hells Angels chapter, had already non-fatally shot another Vagos. He then took aim at Vagos leader Robert Wiggins after the latter had fallen on the casino floor during the brawl. Before he could open fire, Pettigrew was shot dead by Gonzalez. Number 8. 2023 Memorial Day incident. In 2023, a shootout erupted during a Memorial Day motorcycle rally in Red River, New Mexico. Bikers had gathered from all over the US for the rally, and there were roughly 20,000 of them in attendance. On May the 27th, an argument broke out between members of the Water Dogs and the Bandidos, which was ranked as the second largest motorcycle club in the world, behind the Hells Angels. The dispute was reportedly focused on a photo members of one of the clubs had taken with another outlaw biker gang in Albuquerque a few days prior. The verbal argument devolved into a physical altercation which escalated into a shootout. 3 motorcycle club affiliated individuals were killed and another 5 were injured. The dead were identified as Bandido bikers Anthony Silva and Damian Bro, aged 26 and 46 respectively, and 46-year-old Water Dogs biker Randy Sanchez. Jacob Castillo of the Water Dogs was wounded in the fire exchange, and he was the only individual to be arrested on murder charges in the incident's wake. However, as of June of 2023, the case against the 30-year-old had been dropped. Number 7. Brett Chaos Pachy. 34-year-old Brett Pachy, a notorious ex-biker, was taken into custody by Western Australian police on the morning of June the 26th of 2020. He served as a high-ranking member of the Bandidos motorcycle gang for many years, during the course of which he engaged in a variety of criminal activities that led to his arrest on multiple occasions. This particular incident began on June the 24th when Pachy, nicknamed Chaos during his gangster days, threatened 2 officers, issuing him a police order. The order was connected to a domestic violence incident involving his ex-girlfriend, Ricky Louise. Pachy imitated the cocking of a firearm and pretended to point a gun in the policeman's direction. The authorities' concern over the mock threat intensified after a video surfaced in which Pachy said the phrase "coppers died today" with a shotgun placed beside him. Heavily armed tactical response officers subsequently made their way to Pachy's residence to arrest him. They surrounded his property and used a loudspeaker to demand he exit the house. He eventually came outside and gave himself up without incident. A number of charges were handed down, including threatening to kill, possessing a firearm in circumstances of aggravation, and various police order breaches. The whole situation concluded with him being put behind bars for a year. It wasn't the first time Pachy had been arrested in dramatic fashion. In 2018, 26 police officers surrounded his house while he was barricaded inside, videotaping the standoff. Just a few years earlier, the outlaw biker was arrested at Brisbane International Airport over extortion charges after being on the run for 2 years. Number 6. Liam Scorsese. On February the 25th of 2018, a domestic dispute involving a member of the Comanchero Motorcycle Club ultimately led to a deadly police shooting in Brisbane, Australia. 31-year-old biker Liam Scorsese attempted to enter his girlfriend's family residence. in a fit of rage after the couple had engaged in a heated argument. He had been locked out of the house and subsequently started banging on the door, shouting for his partner, Shirez Beitel, to come out. Beitel and the rest of her family barricaded themselves inside the home and called the police. When the authorities showed up at the scene, they found Scorsese wielding a knife he had stolen from the kitchen. With the weapon in hand, he began to approach the officers, who instructed him to drop the blade and get on the ground. Scorsese refused to heed their instructions, prompting the police to fire a taser at his chest, which did little to subdue him. Scorsese ripped the taser wires from his body and resumed charging the officers. In fear for his and his partner's lives, one of the policemen brandished his gun and fired 2 shots at the biker, causing him to fall to the ground. The officers administered first aid until an ambulance arrived to transport him to Princess Alexandra Hospital. He passed away from his gunshot wounds an hour later. Beitel complained that the police officers dispatched to her house that day had neglected to turn on their body cameras prior to shooting Scorsese. After an inquest into the incident, a coroner suggested officers be equipped with body cams that are automatically activated once their guns are drawn. Number 5. Dustin Lindon. A man was shot and killed in DuPont, Indiana by a group of 5 bikers belonging to outlaw motorcycle clubs. On June the 22nd of 2021, the victim was 35-year-old Dustin Lindon of Georgetown, Kentucky, who had gotten into an argument with the 5 suspects after wearing the insignias associated with their gangs, the Pagans and the Warlocks, despite the fact that he wasn't a member of either group. The bikers in question were later identified as David Faulkner, Gary Fletcher, Jason Brewer, Michael Carnuth and Jordan Lowe. After confronting Lindon and expressing their displeasure with his tattoos and patches bearing their symbols, they went to his residence in the early morning hours and conducted a home invasion. Police received reports of shots fired shortly thereafter. When officers arrived at the scene, they found Lindon lying in the yard with a gunshot wound. He had been shot dead following an altercation with the 5 bikers, all of whom were apprehended in connection with the incident. Faulkner, Fletcher, Brewer, and Carnuth were each charged with murder, while Lowe received lesser indictments. Number 4. Michael Davey. An associate of the Rebels motorcycle gang was shot dead in a residential driveway in Kingswood, Australia on March the 30th of 2016. Michael Davey, aged 30, was an enforcer for the infamous Outlaw Club and had earned himself the nickname Ruthless. He had a criminal history that included a manslaughter conviction in 2002 when he was just 17 years of age. Despite his checkered past, Davey was looking to escape the violent world of which he was a part after his girlfriend had given birth to a son. Just after midnight on the night of his death, Davey told his girlfriend he was meeting a friend across the street from where they lived. When he walked to the neighboring driveway, he was shot and killed by 2 fellow rebel members who fled the scene in a getaway car. Witnesses recounted hearing as many as 6 gunshots, followed by the sound of screeching tires. The shooters had reportedly turned on Davey after word got out that he no longer wanted to be associated with the club. The slain motorcyclist was laid to rest in Western Sydney on April the 8th of 2016. The funeral ceremony was attended by dozens of bikers from all over Australia. In August of 2018, the 2 perpetrators were identified by the authorities and charged with Davey's murder. They were both already in correctional facilities for other offenses when the charges were handed down. Number 3. Jeremy Harris. A 38-year-old Florida man named Jeremy Harris was brutally attacked by a group of angry bikers after accidentally clipping one of their vehicles on January the 9th of 2021. Harris came to an intersection in North Fort Myers that was being blockaded by motorcyclists. He began to berate the stationary bikers for stopping the flow of traffic, just so the rest of their group could skip the red light. Harris then attempted to drive away but came very close to knocking one of the riders off his bike. The bikers then pursued him and surrounded his car at a stoplight. Harris exited his vehicle with a wrench in hand and tried to protect himself, but he was ultimately overpowered by the enraged bikers, who proceeded to viciously beat and bludgeon him with the tool. Horrified onlookers attempted to break up the altercation, but the attackers continued their assault. Harris's skull was fractured during the onslaught and he required 15 stitches in his head. Multiple suspects were arrested following the incident and charged with felony battery. Number 2. Ben Geppert. In September of 2020, an ex-Hells Angel by the name of Ben Geppert invaded the home of a 26-year-old man from Broadbeach Waters, Australia, and attacked him with a baseball bat over a drug dispute. Geppert, age 29, had sold the victim $1,500 worth of illegal substances a month prior to the incident, but he was reportedly only given $1,000 in payment. The biker demanded the money he was owed, but on the other side of the argument, the man claimed the drugs he'd been sold were fake. As he continually refused to pay, Geppert texted him a picture of a gun before arriving at his house and beating him to a pulp in his front yard before the eyes of terrified bystanders. At around 11 p.m. that same night, Geppert returned to the man's residence and broke in, armed with a baseball bat, which he used to club the man's head. The resulting injuries required 12 stitches to mend. The very next day, Geppert returned once again and forced the man to accompany him to get a Rolex watch appraised. The biker was subsequently arrested following a rooftop chase with police officers in the town of Kingscliff. In August of 2021, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison for the home invasion and assault. The charges were added to the extensive list of Geppert's past offenses. He was also featured in our Hell's Angel video regarding an incident in which he'd attacked his girlfriend who, fearing for her life, was forced to jump out of a moving car. He also appeared in a viral video produced by the Queensland Police Service, which aimed at stopping new recruits from joining outlawed gangs. Stick around after number 1 to check out our episode about when driving goes wrong. That's coming up right after. Number 1. The 2015 Waco Shootout. A violent shootout between rival motorcycle gangs erupted in Waco, Texas on May the 17th of 2015. More than 200 people were gathered inside a Twin Peaks restaurant for a regional meeting of Texas's statewide biker group coalition. The main topics on the gathering's agenda were centered on political rights for motorcyclists. 18 Waco police officers and 4 Texas state troopers were stationed outside the establishment to monitor the gathering, which had initially started out peacefully. Tensions began to rise between 2 clubs present at the event, the Bandidos and the Cossacks. The incident that reportedly set off the conflict involved someone getting their foot run over in a parking spot just after noon. By 12:24 p.m., the argument had escalated into an all-out gunfight. Patrons of nearby restaurants ducked for cover under tables and behind cars as gunshots started flying from all sides. The police soon returned fire after being shot at themselves, but no civilians or law enforcement officers were wounded during the incident. However, 9 bikers were killed at the scene and 18 others were injured. Police snipers were able to target the armed suspects and bring an end to the gunfire. In the aftermath of the shootout, a total of 177 people were arrested and detained by the authorities, but only one of them was ever brought to trial. Jake Carazal, president of the Bandidos Dallas chapter, was tried for his involvement in the deadly episode, but his case was ultimately thrown out due to a mistrial. By April of 2019, all of the criminal cases stemming from the Waco shootout had been dismissed. More than 130 civil lawsuits were subsequently filed against various state and local officials by many of the bikers involved in the mass arrest. Florida teenager Noah Gale was speeding in a BMW M5 on US 441 near Atlantic Avenue in Delray Beach on January the 27th of 2022. He then tried to overtake a Nissan Rogue, which was carrying 6 farm workers. In doing so, Gale struck the SUV's rear, which sent both vehicles spinning uncontrollably. The BMW stopped on the eastern shoulder of South State Road and Gale only suffered minor injuries. The Rogue, however, flipped and rolled down the grass and dirt center median and came to a rest in an upside-down position. 3 of the occupants were ejected from the vehicle. 5 of the victims died at the scene and a 6th passed away en route to the hospital. They ranged in ages from 29 to 53 and were named as Miriane Innocent Julkius, Remise Michel, Marie Michel Louise, San Luis Michel, Felaine Dieu, and Venice Persina. Gale's toxicology report was negative, and an investigation revealed that speed was the main cause of the accident. Prior to colliding with the Rogue, Gale had been driving the high-performance sports car bought for him by his parents at over 150 miles per hour, and no braking attempt had been made. A representative from the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office argued that Gale had demonstrated clear recklessness behind the wheel. According to his arrest report, Gale had previously posted concerning videos to his social media. They showed him pushing his vehicle over the legal limit and then offering $25 to viewers who could guess his speed. In April of 2022, the 18-year-old was charged with 6 counts of vehicular manslaughter, each of which carried up to 15 years in prison. Gale reportedly suffered psychiatric issues for which he'd received specialized care in the past. 3 of the victims' families filed lawsuits against him as well as his parents for providing him with the car and allowing him to drive in spite of his alleged health issues and the fact that he'd posted videos on social media while driving recklessly. Number 8. SWA City Accident. In 2017, a video of an automobile accident in China went viral, as many viewers struggled to understand how a vehicle had ended up in a tree, as reported by the state-run foreign language news channel CGTN. The car had careened in a curve and then went off an expressway in SWA City, in the Heilongjiang province. The driver was reportedly going too fast and lost control of the white SUV at night and in conditions of poor visibility. There were 5 passengers in the vehicle at the time, all of whom had managed to jump out in time, only suffering minor injuries. The SUV was found by the authorities in the morning precariously hanging from a tree. Its front side had been completely obliterated, a door was missing, and several parts were scattered on the ground below. It was eventually lowered to the ground via crane, and it wasn't made immediately clear if the driver suffered any legal repercussions. Number 7. Massachusetts accident. In February of 2022, a tractor-trailer carrying mail for the U.S. Postal Service in Brockton went off a bridge near Boston, Massachusetts, and landed in the frigid waters of the Charles River. A surveillance video subsequently released by the authorities showed the vehicle as it went through the divider near the off-ramp from Interstate 95 to Interstate 90 in Weston. It became airborne and landed in the river cabin first, with the trailer going over it and impacting the water on its side. State troopers and Western firefighters responded to the incident shortly before noon. The driver, whose identity wasn't reported, had managed to scramble out of the cabin and waited for rescue on the partially submerged rig. According to Western Deputy Fire Chief Justin Woodside, his team was able to reach the scene quickly, as they were already in the area clearing hydrants of a recent snowfall. Upon spotting the first responders, the truck driver reportedly called out to them saying that he couldn't swim. Firefighters went into the water and pulled him out in an intervention which Woodside estimated only took about 4 minutes. The driver was taken to a local hospital, but he wasn't reported to have suffered serious injuries. In the week that followed, he was cited by Massachusetts State Police for excessive speed and a marked lanes violation. Number 6. Robert Nicoletti. In December of 2022, Robert Nicoletti, a retired dental salesman from Orange County, California, died in the aftermath of a brutal car crash. On the afternoon of December the 16th, Nicoletti was driving his 2015 red Ferrari on a road in Santiago Canyon near the town of Silverado. He was reported to have accelerated in order to prevent being overtaken by a Tesla. The 71-year-old was thus unable to navigate an upcoming curve and slammed into a Mazda SUV as well as a blue Toyota. The fronts of the latter vehicle sustained heavy damage, but their drivers and occupants weren't reported to have been significantly injured. The Ferrari was cut in 2 by the force of the collision, and the impact ejected Nicoletti from the vehicle. He died at the scene. Sergeant Chris Ulibarri of the CHP's Santa Ana office told the media that they were still investigating the accident, but initial findings suggested that speed had been the primary factor. Number 5. Kate Atkinson. In the winter of 2017, a young woman was killed following a devastating single-car accident in Westbourne, England. Shortly before 1 a.m. on January the 16th, the emergency services were called to Almhurst Road. They found that a Renault Clio had slammed into the wall of the Alum Chine car park. During the holiday season, the car park hosted hundreds of cars, mainly from tourists, as Bournemouth Beach was just a short walk away. The driver, 23-year-old Kate Atkinson, was pulled from the wreckage. She'd sustained critical injuries to which she succumbed in a local hospital. Law enforcement was still investigating the factors that had led to the fatal crash as of the latest updates on the matter, and was seeking help from the public in determining the Clio's manner of driving before it struck the wall. Number 4. Connecticut Accident. An unnamed driver miraculously survived a single-car accident in late December of 2022 while traveling through Manchester, Connecticut. According to a Facebook post by Manchester Fire Rescue EMS, a piece of guardrail had become separated as a result of the crash and impaled a black sedan. It went through the passenger compartment between the front seats. The sharp piece of metal then came out the rear of the vehicle, extending roughly 20 feet beyond it. The car's occupant was taken to a local hospital by paramedics. They were considered extremely fortunate to have come out of the accident with only minor injuries. Number 3. Cara Santorelli. Florida teenager Cara Santorelli posted a video to her TikTok on March the 11th of 2023, boasting that she'd never been involved in a car accident. The caption of the 5-second clip read, "When they try to call me a bad driver, but I've never hit a person or an actual car." Less than a week later, the 18-year-old rising TikTok star would be dead. On March the 17th, Santorelli was driving down Highway 29 in Escambia County. According to the Florida Highway Patrol, a Chevrolet sedan came careening the wrong way and smashed into the teen's Nissan SUV. The Chevrolet caught fire after the head-on collision, and its driver, who wasn't identified, passed away as well. The video that Santorelli had posted a few days prior was viewed over 15 million times in the incident's wake. The teen's friends and followers expressed their condolences. The Northview High School, from which Santorelli was due to graduate in a few months' time, released a statement paying tribute to her as well. Number 2. Bethany Branson. English teenager Bethany Branson was a passenger in a vehicle driving along the A38 Taunton Road near Bridgewater, Somerset, on November the 8th of 2022. That same evening, further up the A38 near the Showground roundabout, a driver by the name of Luke Hawks had been involved in a traffic collision. The 28-year-old drove his Ford Transit van away from the scene of the crash and traveled towards Bridgewater. Surveillance footage would later show him running a red light at high speed and crashing into 2 cars. 19-year-old Branson was a passenger in one of the vehicles that were hit. She was left in critical condition and subsequently passed away. 3 other people, Hawks included, were left with minor injuries. The intoxicated man was taken into custody by Avon and Somerset police officers. He was held at taser point and refused to complete a breathalyzer or swab test for drugs and alcohol at the roadside. He made chilling statements in the accident's aftermath, which were captured by the officers' body cams. A seemingly remorseless Hawks was recorded saying, "I hope I killed someone. Oh well, you know what, I will get 3, 4, 5 years. Hopefully, I killed them." Later, the Taunton Crown Court was told that, having learned about Branson's passing, Hawks stated, "I'm glad she is dead. She deserved it." As reported by the victim's grieving family, she was a keen rugby player who had dreams of a career working with animals. Hawks ultimately admitted causing death by dangerous driving and failing to provide a specimen. During his sentencing on January the 27th, the judge described his course of driving as prolonged, consistent, and deliberate, resulting in a sea of carnage. Hawks was jailed for 10 years and disqualified from driving for 12 years and 7 months. Number 1. John William Lambert. Based on his 1887 patent for the gasoline engine, Ohio man John William Lambert is regarded as the creator of the first American automobile. His concept was based on the idea of a horseless carriage, and his invention had 3 wheels, with the one at the front used for steering, and a single-cylinder engine. The automobile was known as the Lambert gasoline buggy. In 1891, with James Swoveland as a passenger, Lambert took his model for a drive through Ohio City. At some point, he struck a tree root and lost control of the vehicle. Lambert then crashed into a hitching post. The incident became known as the first recorded automobile accident in American history, and a number of sources also reference it as the world's first confirmed car crash. Injuries were minor, as the car didn't have the power to achieve significant speed. Still, it was said to have inspired Lambert to implement safety features such as adding doors to his automobiles. Thanks for watching.